Hello and welcome to the Trusted Advisor, a channel-focused podcast and video series powered by the Retail Solutions Providers Association. I'm Jim Roddy, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us. This pod and video series is designed specifically for point-of-sale resellers and software developers, and our goal is to educate you on the topics of technology, leadership, management, sales, marketing, and other small business best practices. Today on the podcast, we'll be talking with two special guests from channel distributor ScanSource about how VARs can transition to become total solution providers. First, Kyle DeWitt is the Vice President of Technical Services, where he's responsible for pre- and post-sales support engineers in North America at ScanSource. As part of his role, Kyle explores and researches which new technologies will be most impactful across a variety of verticals. Hey, Kyle, it's nice to meet you, and thanks for being here today.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it as well. We'll also talk with Brenda McCurry. Brenda joined ScanSource in 1993 and now serves as the Vice President of Merchandising for ScanSource POS and Barcode. Brenda manages vendor relationships, guides strategy, and directs her team in identifying and developing growth opportunities. She's been active in the RSPA for years and recently served as an advisory board member. Hey, Brenda, always great to talk with you.
Nice to see you, Jim. Great to be here.
Great. I'm glad that both of you are here. I also have to note that Kyle attended Furman University in Greenville and Brenda attended nearby Clemson. And so I get that a lot when I bump into ScanSource employees. So ScanSource is very much a landing spot for the top graduates of those two schools, it seems. I'm just curious, does it say in the literature when you went there, if you do really well here, get good grades, you get a job at ScanSource? Does it kind of work that way?
I wish.
You would think so. It helps that our CEO and founder is a Clemson alum. So
yeah.
Yep.
We're very blessed to have the opportunity to recruit from some really good schools here in the area.
Yep.
Yeah, you've got a really good pipeline going. So again, glad that FU and Clemson are both represented here. So the focus of this podcast today is not should you be a total solution provider, but how do you do it? And so the first step to transitioning from the typical VAR business model, where you provide part of the technology solution, to becoming a total solution provider is defining that total solution for your merchants. And so, Kyle, I know what I'm going to ask is a really heavy question, but what's the technology stack that's needed by our listeners and our viewers who serve the retail, restaurant, and grocery verticals?
Yeah, it's a great opening question, but like you said, it is a heavy one. We could spend a ton of time digging into some of especially the technologies of the future. But we look at the solutions to, and I know we'll get into the framework, but we look at solutions in hardware, software, services, and networking. Those are the kind of the pillars of solution building. And from a technology standpoint, we find that our partners or our mutual partners are very comfortable in the hardware software space. They either have ISV partnerships or are ISVs. They're comfortable with hardware and the payment space. But I'd say from a technology stack standpoint, self-checkout, really important right now. All of the front of house technologies for point of sale, very important right now. Some of the back office things, especially in hospitality or restaurant environments, like receipt printers and things like that. All of those are very comfortable for our partners who have point of sale practices. Some of the other things that go into that stack that may not be as comfortable or may not be as intuitive as part of the sale would be things like physical security. Having a retail environment with an actual cash register and a till, you need a camera that's pointed at that till. Otherwise, you're going to have a cash flow problem, a very physical cash flow problem. Access control to the premise is very important right now. I know we're getting back to the point where we're opening retail environments and hospitality environments in many states, but there are still a lot of vacant buildings. So not only do you need to protect your customers' employees, but you need to protect the assets within these buildings. And access control on back doors, front doors, physical security to protect them. Those are all very adjacent technologies. Larger footprint retail environments, you've got communications elements to it where you need to tracking your employees and being able to communicate your employees, calling out where a customer needs help, things like that. But I'd say those are the ones that are most easily addressable in the wheelhouse of our audience today. There are certainly some technologies of the future that we're monitoring that cross this space very quickly. Cybersecurity is one. We can certainly dig into that later. IoT, blockchain, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, virtual reality. I mean, there's some really cool adaptations of these technologies out there that are right in this space, and they are not that far out.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just as you say that, I'm thinking about myself as a reseller, and self-checkout, physical security, access control. I can feel like, yeah, I can do that. But once you start talking about augmented reality, I'm thinking an AI and IoT. Like,
That's
wow,
right.
it just seems light years away. But the future is here right now. Brenda, what technologies would you add to the list that Kyle gave, or which would you emphasize?
Well, I really would like to emphasize that what we're seeing with our partners is that maybe they played in one area of a retail store, maybe they played in the front office, right? And now they're really playing across the store. They're going from, the front to the back. And I think Kyle did a really good job of summarizing the technology stack, but I think the consumer or the end user is really looking for one person to deal with. They really want one source, and they want someone that can handle their point of sale needs, their infrastructure needs, their communication needs, their security needs. So they really want to go to one person in order to make that happen. And so I think we're seeing more and more of that as we kind of grow into this being this total solution provider.
Got it. That's true. The merchants are asking for this. So it's not like you only are making the decision on your own, like, here's how I want my business to be. But merchants would prefer to deal with just one vendor and make one phone call whenever something from an IT standpoint goes wrong. Is that kind of what you're saying, Brenda?
That is what I'm saying.
Yep.
Got it. Thank you. All right. And so Kyle alluded to this, but let's zoom out. We talk about the technology stack, but let's look at, like Kyle said, those four pillars, or think about it as four legs of a table for total solutions. He said hardware, software, networking, and services. And Brenda, starting with you, can you talk a little bit about that concept in more detail? Like, how balanced do those legs need to be? Does a VAR need internal expertise in all four of those areas?
So we see some VARs that do have expertise in all four areas, and they kind of have to be balanced, right? You think of, you need to have the knowledge and the expertise in the hardware and the services and the software in order for your customer to solve your customer's problem, right? And it really starts with that business need and understanding what the end user needs are and what their challenges are and how you can go solve it. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to hire someone on your team to do it, but partnerships are key. If you have a specialty, if you understand the point of sale or the self-checkout area, but you need someone to partner with you on the infrastructure piece or the mobile piece or the security piece, partnerships are king right now. And so you can rely on distribution, right? We have resources. Kyle's team is a perfect example of having the architects and the design team to help our partners understand what they need. And then we also have a professional services team that can help with the implementation. So we have resources at ScanSource, but there's also partnerships out in the industry. There's a lot of ISVs that can help you build a solution, right? So that you don't have to have the answer to every challenge at your end user.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the point in terms of how you can partner with not just other resellers, but also with your distributor vendor partners. I think I've been hosting podcast moderating panels in this industry for moving in on 20 years now, and especially in live events, I'll turn to the audience and say, lean on your vendors, lean on your distributors, pick up the
Yeah.
phone, right? Because they actually want to help you. And as our friend Paul Constantine, who's longtime ScanSource employee, I remember him saying at an RSPA Inspire event, we just want y'all to sell more, right? And so that's really what a lot of the vendors and the distributors want. So
We can be behind the scenes. We can be behind the scenes and help support the partner and give them the necessary resources to be successful with their end customer.
Exactly. Very good. And just so you know, I'm putting a hash mark down. Paul and I are good friends. We met at Inspire event, like I said, years ago. So every time I quote him, I think he has to give me $20 or something like that. So Kyle,
I'll get a cut of his.
Great. So Kyle, many of our listeners and viewers, they have a long history of, as you alluded to earlier, selling, installing, and servicing point of sale hardware and software, but they don't have that experience as much with networking and services. So what advice can you give to a VAR who's maybe in the early stages or the exploratory stages of navigating these two areas?
Yeah, I'd say so. There's a couple of key things that I would give as advice here. One, on the networking side, don't be afraid of it. Not only don't be afraid of it, but fully embrace it. Every single device that we as technologists deploy for our customers connects to a network somewhere, and every single one of those devices is an entry point for bad actors, right? So you need to understand, one, what your liability is, two, how to secure things as you walk into a customer that's not a greenfield environment where there's already an existing network and you're dropping a new device on it. So both sides of the coin there are, don't be afraid to address the networking elements or the networking needs of your customers, but two, make sure you're fully aware of what their network looks like before you decide to install new devices on it. Two, staying on the networking side, there's I referenced cybersecurity earlier. I'm probably going to say it again before we disconnect on here because it's so important right now, especially as our transactions in the retail space move more digital. You have less physical hand-to-hand transactions happening and more digital transactions happening, or contactless transactions. There is a global shortage of expertise in cybersecurity. So to feel overwhelmed in that space is 100% normal. And we would not advocate that you go try to spend a bunch of money to build a practice. There are plenty of companies out there that specialize in it, that are certified, that have security operations centers that you can partner with or subscribe to handle the security elements of your customer. So the easy part of networking is, I want to install a wireless device. They don't have a wireless AP at this shop. I can sell them an access point. Easy peasy. Some margin availability there. It's a good opportunity to upsell when you walk in and have that total solution conversation with your customer. But understand the other elements to it, the security elements to it, and don't be afraid to enter that. We have practices both. ScanSource has practices both on the networking wireless side of the business. We also have a cybersecurity practice, so we can help have both those conversations with you. Flipping a little bit into services. Services is the highest margin opportunity anybody that's listening to this podcast has. You can go sell a whole bunch of widgets to your customer base, or sell some services. You're going to make a lot more money on the services side. And again, you can either build or partner to deliver those services. But just, well, what do services mean? A couple of examples. MDM, really big right now, mobile device management. So if you are in the grocery space, there are some large chains that are moving to self-scan, self-checkout style customer experiences in grocery stores. All of those devices need to be managed. There are some that are using handheld scanners. You walk in, you pick up a handheld scanner, you go around, you scan all your product, you push it out the door in your cart. Sensors, beacons, IoT. Here's where you have to rein me in, Jim, because I'm going to go down all kinds of different technology paths, but all of those devices need to be managed. By the way, we're recording this the end of September 2020. All those devices need to be sanitized as well. That's a service. That's a managed service that our partners can provide. Other services in that space are traditional things like help desk, install products with your customer. They have problems. We mentioned it earlier. I try to get away from one throat to choke and go one back to pat. But one phone number to call to help with any of the issues that especially a small business is having inside their facility. Small restaurateurs, they want to make food and serve food. They don't want to be IT specialists. So there's a great opportunity for our partners to spin up some high margin services, provide simple things like help desk for the IT infrastructure at their customer sites, and then move into some of these more technically challenging services like I've mentioned. But there's a lot of opportunity out there. There's a lot more opportunity than just walking in and selling a pen pad or replacing a pen pad for these partners.
Yeah, and so first, I'm going to try to steal your phrase about one back to pat. That is way more optimistic than one throat to choke, and I think it really sets up the relationship with your merchant customers a lot better than that. If we can drill down, Kyle, just for a second, I really like how you started off talking about be not afraid, and especially from a security standpoint. So one thing that we saw talking, from an RSPA standpoint, talking with a lot of our members in the industry, we've seen that a lot of resellers, when it came to security, they just wanted to be hands off and said, I don't want to be responsible for it. I'll take care of the POS, I'll take care of the payments, but I don't want to be responsible. Now they're realizing that they would be neglectful if they didn't take care of security, because their customer could end up getting hacked and they need to be protected. So they don't want to be derelict in their duties. Is that a change in mindset that you're starting to see from a security standpoint, that more of these folks who were just hands off are saying, I really owe it to my customers to take care of this instead of leaving it to someone else?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some very public examples of data breaches that have happened in the retail space. I mean, for 10 years, there've been very public examples of these things. And if you go back and you look at what the entry point for those data breaches were, it was never the point of sale equipment. It was something else. It was something else that was dropped onto the same network as the point of sale equipment. And again, bad actors had access to everything. Once they're in, they have access to everything. So you're exactly right. Like people want to say, like, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to be involved. That's not in my wheelhouse, but it is. It has to be, because you're impacting your customer's network. So it behooves everyone to at least have a basic understanding of what risks they're introducing to their customer. And then, like I alluded to, Jim, right now, the fact that we're moving to more contactless methods, curbside, the pen pads and swipe payment devices are leaving their mounted place on a desk and going into the parking lot or onto a curb. Those are all risks, not only to PCI compliance, but to the data. So it is definitely becoming more relevant now because of the environment in the retail space, but it's been around for a while.
Right.
Got it. Yeah, so, Brenda, please.
So Jim, if I can add, Kyle's exactly right. We've been talking about security now for, I don't know, 10 years, Kyle. We started our security business, and we're now really starting to see some of our traditional point of sale customers start to really interact with the security suppliers, and starting to see some success with like security cameras, right? They're really starting to put that into their total offering to the end user. So that has picked up, I would say, in the past 6 months greatly. We have large rollouts happening right now with some of the top security camera companies.
Got it. And what's the impetus behind that? Is it just because the time has come, or is there something beyond that? Is there something that VARs are seeing that they haven't before?
I think I think VARs one are seeing that they that the end users are in a place where they need to have the security, as Kyle was talking about. Their the business has changed and how they are interacting with their customers has changed, and they need to provide a secure environment, and they're asking a lot of questions. The consumers are asking a lot of questions, and the VARs now are saying, hey, I've heard about this, and I have a source at ScanSource that can go help me. And so they can rely on Kyle's team and our security team to help them implement and grow their business, right? I think more so than ever right now, our VARs are looking for ways to expand their business and to become a trusted advisor for their end user. And so I think now is the time that we're really starting to see everything that we've talked about for so many years come into play.
Yeah,
Right.
I think we benefit, Jim, just from having such a wide portfolio of products that contain the word security in them, that we can be a little vague in how we refer to it, but it doesn't matter. When you're looking at a total solution, security can mean secure your network, but it can also mean secure your premise. And the evolution of the secure your premise technology has started to move into things like temperature scanning and touchless entry and things like that. So there are impetuses in the market now that are driving an evolution of technology in that physical security space that really don't have anything to do with keeping the bad guys out. It's really about protecting the people that you want to come into your business.
Protecting your employees.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, got to protect them. So before we dive into some more specifics, let's pause here for a moment and let our listeners and viewers know that an RSPA membership has never been more valuable or affordable. The RSPA has expanded its VAR and ISV member benefits to include discounts on health insurance, HR services, office supplies, and shipping. Also, RSPA members now have access to a legal advisor, security advisor, and a VAR and ISV business advisor. That's all included in your annual RSPA membership, which for resellers starts at just $250 a year. That's 68 cents a day for these high value services. I'm just realizing I should have had you guys compute that to see what it is and see who gets it faster, the Furman grad or the Clemson grad, but the moment has passed, so we're gonna have to catch that next time. So
I'm a Furman grad with a math degree, so
yeah, I don't have a math degree, so
I'm gonna claim it without having done it. Jim, continue.
Well, good. Maybe we'll have another math quiz portion towards the end of the podcast as well. We'll come up with some more formulas, throw some geometry out there. So without an RSPA membership, you'll either spend thousands of dollars paying an outside consultant who doesn't know the channel, or you'll end up going it alone during these turbulent times in our industry. Accelerate your success by joining the RSPA today. Also, thank you to our sponsors who support the RSPA community and make this podcast and video series possible. Our platinum sponsors are Blue Star, Heartland, Shift4 Payments, and ScanSource. To receive the benefits of an RSPA membership or RSPA sponsorship, email membership@gorspa.org. That's membership@gorspa.org. Okay, so our listeners have decided they want to become a total solution provider. So let's talk about some areas of a VAR's business where they might need to make some adjustments. So I'd like to hear your advice and also understand the best practices that you're seeing from ScanSource's top resellers who have made this transition. And I'll just throw it out, whoever wants to answer each one of these. So we want to start with financing. Is additional financing needed to fund this transition? And if the answer to that is yes, what are the methods, what are the options, what are the alternatives for a VAR to finance this transition?
I'd say one immediate investment that our partners can make is 68 cents a day to get access to a security advisor. Call back to the first half of the podcast. I know the entering a new space can seem daunting if you don't possess the skill set within your current business practices. That's one of the biggest initial investments that partners have to decide whether or not to make. Go hire a specific skill set to enter into a new technology space or even a new vertical. That can be expensive depending on what skill set you need and where the talent exists. M&A is also another, route to obtain skill sets and obtain a business practice. And so, again, timing is everything. Not a lot of partners sitting around with a bunch of cash to burn in building new practices and acquiring companies. So we've mentioned partnerships already. Brenda has mentioned it a couple of times in the top part of the podcast. That's one of the best ways to do it. Low barrier to entry. Either find another partner like yourselves that focus in a space that you need to enter, or there are tons of solution providers out there where you can subscribe to their offerings, introduce a monthly recurring revenue stream into your business with almost zero working capital, right? So I mean, you can start a security practice and never hire a person. You could start a wireless infrastructure practice and never hire a single person. So there's lots of opportunities out there that fall within this partnership.
Can I ask how, if you can dive down on like that wireless infrastructure and never hire a person, like somebody listening to that would be like, well, how in the world do I do that? Like a magic wand? Or like, can you talk about maybe those specifics of how would a reseller who doesn't have that expertise start that practice? What would they do without having to spend money?
Yeah, well, it's tough to answer that question without it sounding like a commercial, but ScanSource has a whole portfolio of
clearly
providers.
I'm comfortable reading commercials, so go ahead.
ScanSource has a whole portfolio of providers through our Intelisys organization that the entire space is monthly recurring revenue. It's X as a service and wireless as a service, infrastructure as a service, networking as a service. Like all those things exist, and there are companies out there who have specialized in it and can provide a per month fee to and through the partners to the customers that can assist with everything we've talked about: physically getting product on site and installed, securing product that's on site and installed. And a lot of times the role that our partners, the minimum role our partners have to play is matchmaking. And we can help them with that, find the right partner, and they just then sit back and collect commission checks. It's that easy, Jim.
Got it. Well, that was kind of the thing when payment processing first took place. Like resellers,
right.
POS resellers, were used to breaking their back for their money, and they were saying this sounds too good to be true, but it wasn't, right? It's once you get that relationship, then you get that, mailbox money as it used to be. Now, obviously, there's work to do, in case if anything goes bad or questions that you have, but it's not like they had to spend a whole bunch of money to build some infrastructure. So finance is important. Anything else you would add to that, Brenda, before we talk about some other areas?
Well, I think we're going to talk a little bit about sales and marketing in a moment. So I think Kyle did a real good job. I think finance, you really have to understand what investments you're wanting to make. If you understand the market, are you going to hire a consultant, or are you going to hire an employee that can give you the expertise, or are you going to acquire, or are you going to work with a third party outsourcing and partnerships? Those are just the questions you need to ask yourself.
Yeah, and if you dive a little bit more into staffing, what have you seen from a trend standpoint? Have you seen ScanSource as far as adding staff, or they've been able to become a total solution provider, by leaning on vendors and distributors? Like, do they have to add one person, no people, 5? I guess, what are you seeing from a trend standpoint from your perspective?
Yeah, I typically see them adding maybe sales structure, right? They're adding feet on the street to go out and actually sell the solution. And then they rely on ScanSource, or they rely on partnerships with ISVs or the suppliers, right, to help them outsource the other areas of that business. We can do the custom configs, we can do the integration work on their behalf, we can bring in someone to do implementation for them. So we have all these resources, and we're seeing more and more partners come to ScanSource or distribution and say, hey, I don't want to be in the back office anymore. I don't want to, have a fleet of trucks on the street, right? How do I work with you guys to partner with other folks and make that happen? They want to concentrate on the sales side, and they do a really good job there, but they are outsourcing, and they're using us and using the suppliers to do that.
Got it. And then partnering, I want to dive a little bit more into that. We've talked about that, I guess, from a theoretical standpoint in terms of this is one way to, get from a VAR to a total solution provider. But can either one of you talk about, do you see a lot of that VAR to VAR partnering actually happening to help them become total solution providers? Or is it just a handful of folks are doing it and you see most of the channel being late adopters? Or is it, boy, people are jumping in, feet first, and it's, really a popular thing that folks are doing? Or are they more slower adopters in this? I guess, what's your perspective? What are you seeing from a practical application for partnering?
Yeah, I'd say from a VAR to VAR standpoint, it's not tremendously prevalent because part of the acronym VAR is value add, and people are very protective of their value add, and part of that is the relationship with the customer, and so it takes a lot of trust, and it's a role that we play. I said matchmaking earlier, but that's a role we play where if we have a VAR come to ScanSource with an opportunity, but there's a gap in that VAR's offering that is needed to be filled, we can set them up with a trusted advisor, with another reseller that has a practice in that space, that we know to be friendly, that we know to have good relationships with their peers, and can walk in, arm in arm to a single customer and represent a partnership. But that's building, Jim, because people are seeing this need right now to become more diverse in their offerings, and for all the reasons we've just talked about, there's some barriers to entry in partnerships. If you can, if you have the trust and you have the right partners, that's a very easy solution.
Yeah, I've seen geographical partnerships. Like,
Yep.
I came across a deal out of town, and so I have
That's right.
somebody to, sell my solution and partner there. But I haven't seen many inside the same region. I have this technology specialty, you have this, let's work together. It almost seems like they, you know, sharpen their weapons before they go after each other. Like, I don't want to do that. So it'd be interesting to see if we're able to do that. Go ahead, Brenda.
Yep.
I was just going to say, I think Kyle brought up a key word in trust. And so we do have some large partners and that compete with each other in the retail space, right? But they may not have all of the skill set, like they may be used to dealing with a specialty retail store, but they have a need for self-checkout, right? So they may partner together and work together on that opportunity, and they come up with a referral fee and leads and all of that. So we do see some of our larger retail partners working together, but they have long-standing, I'd say, friendships, and they really trust each other to know, hey, if I bring you into this opportunity, you're not going to steal it from me. You're going to help me support what is needed, and you're going to help me, but you're not going to take this customer away from me. And so I think that's really the key word, is that through the years they've been in the same ecosystem working together, and they know what their strengths and their skill sets are, and they leverage those and they partner. And I think that's the beauty of what ScanSource tries to do when we have our partner events, but also what RSPA tries to do, Jim, when we do, Retail Now and Inspire. It's really about bringing people together and understanding that networking is so important. And as you build those networks, you can build the trusted advisors, and you can partner with each other out in the economy and the world.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Jim,
I'll share with you. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
I just wanted to button that up by saying partnership is not optional anymore. I will be so bold as to say this is going to be a requirement for VARs to survive in the new space. They are going to have to partner. And whether or not they're partnering with other VARs or with suppliers or service providers that can help fill the gaps, those will be the ones that thrive and survive.
Yeah, so 2 points I'll add. So first, you said button that up, Kyle. So in a few minutes, I have a special surprise for you guys that you'll start either thinking or saying button that up. But I don't want to spoil the surprise for you. But the other part is the RSPA is going to run an experiment we just launched a cannabis community. We're going to have the first meeting in October, and so we're inviting some managed services providers who work more on the back end of the cannabis market and trying to partner them with point of sale resellers who might not know anything about the cannabis vertical, but these cannabis MSPs don't know a whole lot about how dispensaries and retail work. So, it could be folks who are in the same state and trying to get them to work together. So we've had a lot of interest from it, and we reached out to a handful of people, and very, very receptive. We're going to kind of test that and see if we can make some more of these solution provider to solution provider partnerships happen. So, all right, well, a couple minutes left. One last topic I wanted to talk about, or one area for total solution provider, is sales and marketing, right? You can set yourself up to provide everything, but if you're not able to move these products and services, the whole machine isn't going to work. So how does a total solution provider market and sell their solution differently than a traditional reseller?
So, Jim, really it takes, you've got to take your sales reps and you've got to train them on a solution. We can all sell a widget, right? It's pretty easy to sell a widget and go in and you just, compete there. But if you really want to challenge your team, you really got to train them. And so we've seen a lot of opportunity to help educate a sales team on the questions they need to ask and how they need to focus and change their sales approach to sell a solution. And it's really about going in and understanding the end customer business challenges. What are they faced with? What are their day-to-day challenges? And what do they need to solve? And then you step back from that and you think about, okay, what is the hardware that's needed? What is the software that's needed? How do I wrap in the services and the professional services to build that margin up and to be more profitable? And then you go back in and you tell your story to the end customer. It's about differentiating yourself out in the marketplace because you may be running up against your competition. So you need to have your story buttoned up. I'll use Kyle's talk there, but you need to button your sales pitch up. And that has to start with training and education, right? So your sales team has to be very comfortable in having that conversation. But then you really have to think about, okay, how do I deliver my message to the market? What does my website look like? What do I just talk about products on my website, or am I talking about a solution? Am I featuring a solution and how to solve a problem? So you really need to think about, okay, I've got to change how I tell my story. What's my value proposition? What am I really trying to sell here, and really, change your whole messaging and your whole way to market. New ways to market. You've got the social media aspect, and you've got all of the different ways to do video now to really highlight a solution versus just a product.
I'm glad you brought up the website, Brenda, because a lot of resellers I see, if you go to their website, they show a point of sale system and another point of sale system, and of course, smiling people in a restaurant and another point of sale system. It's like, if you want to be perceived or known as a total solution provider, you've got to show how that whole ecosystem works. And then when you go engage with a customer, you can't just go slinging a product, because if they need a POS system, that's a very shorter conversation than let's do a need analysis of what you have. So I'm glad you brought up that point.
Yeah,
Kyle,
to add on to that,
go ahead. Yeah, please.
I would say business practice leader is one of the key investments any partner can make, any VAR can make, if they are going to hire staff or hire a new sales team, as we alluded to earlier. So if you're getting into a new space, a practice leader in that space, well worth the investment, and they can help navigate how to sell, how to create solutions, what the market looks like, who the right suppliers are on that space. And a lot of times that can literally be one person. And so it's a good attack strategy as you move away from a myopic view of an industry to a total solution view. And the other thing that I would throw out there about the sales organization is, if you're choosing as a VAR to enter into this monthly recurring revenue revenue stream, there was some hesitation because most sales organizations are coin operated, and they want that sell and they want their commission right back off the sale of the widget. And if you try to describe how long it takes to see return on monthly recurring revenue, people are like, no, I don't have that. I don't have enough time for that. I don't want to wait for my mailbox money to show up. But look, if you're starting a new practice and you're focusing on that type of revenue stream, this is a great opportunity to start your sales team focused on closing opportunities where they're going to get paid commission for the life of the opportunity, instead of trying to retrain a coin operated sales organization.
Got it. All right. So last couple questions. We're running out of time here. We're almost up against it. But I picture a reseller listening to this, taking notes, looking at everything they've written and thinking, like, where in the world do I start? So to help them before they pull out all their hair, can you answer their question, like, quickly with a couple things, like where in the world should they start? What are the first 1 or 2 steps they should take to become a total solution provider?
Yeah, I think that's another ScanSource plug. We've got every partner that buys from us has an assigned account manager, and a lot of times account executives that can help them with that planning, introduce them to suppliers. I have solution architects on my team that can talk through industry trends, what suppliers are solving certain needs, and we also ScanSource can also help navigate that, how to build a business practice.
Got it. Brenda, go ahead, Brenda. What's your answer?
No, I was just going to say, Kyle, you're exactly right. We have business development teams. We have account executive teams that really can help our partners dive into a business plan and help them look and analyze the business, and then pull in the resources from Kyle's team and from our marketing team. We have ScanSource University, which is a portal that houses videos, it houses blogs, it houses thought leadership, it houses supplier trainings that really can help our partners dive deep into a solution. We have the ability to create some special customized training for a partner if they need to. We can pull in the experts. Kyle is one of our experts, and we can pull in supplier experts, and we can pull in marketing experts, really to help our partners craft the right business plan to go launch into being a total solution provider. So I would say it starts with just asking a few simple questions and asking for help.
Yeah, if you're listening to this and you're a reseller, you're not going to be the first ever reseller to go down this path.
Right.
So
Right.
lean on other folks and don't feel like you have to do all the discovery by yourself. Right? There's a MapQuest out there for you, or Google Maps, and they can show you the way. So my last question for you both, and we like asking our guests this from time to time: can you recommend for our audience, again, of VARs and ISVs, a book to read, an online resource to follow, podcast to listen to that'll help them improve their organization?
Yeah, we've done a couple of podcast series. Jim, I know you've starred in one of them called Don't Change the Channel, where we take industry leaders, sometimes from our suppliers, sometimes from our partner organizations, and we'll dig into certain topics. We've recently done one on the retail and grocery space that was recorded a couple of months ago as the big transition was happening in that space. And then we also have a second one that's called Break It Down, which is Break IT Down, where I try to explain some of those highbrow technologies I mentioned at the beginning to some ScanSource employees who ask me to teach them as if they were 8 years old. So it's an interesting view of these complicated technologies, but translated in a way that not only consumers, but people in our space that are trying to sell this technology can understand it.
I just picture 8-year-olds who have sock puppets and cartoons and marionettes or something
like that. It's a true podcast, no video, so I'm having to Jim.
All right, Brenda, what resources would you recommend, or books to read, stuff like that?
So I would have to recommend our Power Hours. They are an hour-long web seminar that we've been hosting, and it first started, I guess, back in March, and we hosted Bruce Stewart, who is Channel Corp And he basically walked our partners through how to be financially sound and what was needed to move to a reoccurring revenue model. And it was a 6 weeks course, and he was really, really good. We just finished the last course around marketing, and it was really walking our partners through how to market. And we closed out yesterday with Scott Drobner from Zebra talking about market disruptions. And so he really laid out kind of what's happening in the world right now, and from a vertical standpoint and from opportunities, growth areas. And so I would say, be sure you tune in, because we'll have some more coming up in October and November.
Great, thank you for that. Thank you for those resources. And so I'm going to close in a kind of an unusual fashion here before we wrap things up. So Kyle, this is the first time I've ever interviewed a Furman grad here on the Trusted Advisor podcast. And as I mentioned earlier, Paul Constantine, who I've gotten to know and become friends with, met him at a RSPA Inspire event. He is a Furman grad as well. He and I are both small college basketball fans, and he's really got me hooked on the Furman basketball program, right? They become a small college power. Their guys don't transfer out. Nobody transfers in, right? They're well-behaved, really, and win a ton of games as well, and do well in school. And so Paul got me turned on to following Furman basketball. And then they had in March, they had something on a social media campaign. If you retweet this, maybe you can win some Furman basketball gear. And I was like, I am all up for it. And so I did that, and I ended up winning a Furman t-shirt. And so I was like, great. And I actually retweeted and said, I'm ready for this great postseason run. And then COVID hit, so I never had a chance to wear the Furman t-shirt. But so folks who are watching this on video, you might notice this is the first time that I haven't, this is our 28th episode, or 29th, I've kind of lost track of the Trusted Advisor podcast. And this is the first time I haven't worn my blue RSPA shirt. That's because I'm wearing underneath this, try and get the buttons right. I am wearing that Furman basketball t-shirt and representing.
I love it.
So
I love it. Thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate that.
Jim, sure, I've got to get you a Tiger shirt.
I know. The other purple. This purple is just fine, Brenda.
I'll get you an orange one.
All right, I appreciate that.
Paul will be very proud. I will let him know.
Yes, he will be very proud.
Very good. Well, good. Thank you for everybody for tolerating me taking my shirt off. But the folks who are listening audio-wise, I'm wearing a T-shirt as well. It wasn't like took everything off there. So, well, everybody, we hope you enjoyed our discussion today. If you did, be sure to subscribe to the RSPA YouTube channel and the Trusted Advisor podcast so you never miss an episode. We'd also appreciate if you'd rate us wherever you find your favorite podcasts. My personal philosophy is the more stars, the better. And if you'd like to learn more best practices for VARs and ISVs in the point of sale channel, you can check out the RSPA blog. You can find it at gorspa.org and then clicking on RSPA blog. Before we go, thanks again to Kyle and Brenda for sharing their wisdom with us today. Really good information. We appreciate that very much. Thanks also to RSPA Marcom manager Chris Arnold for his production work, Joseph McDade for our music, and last but not least, thanks so much to you for listening. Our goal at the RSPA is to accelerate the success of our members in the point of sale ecosystem by providing knowledge and connections. For more information, please visit our website at gorspa.org. Thanks for listening, and goodbye, everybody.